What's up guys, Car Boss here, back in another video where we talk about cars, money, investing. We are still live with the 2022 July National Elite Auction that's still going on here for Marvel cards and stuff. You can see Amazing Fantasy 15. A bunch of these auctions has already ended, and you can still see here this 2017 Fleur Ultra PMG Green of Spider-Man still going. 15 minutes to go with extended bidding, currently at $58,000, right? But small lot here for this month, just 6 items or 7 items actually with this jambalaya. And the one that we want to talk about here is this one here, PMG Red 2013, the original Spider-Man, going for only $18,000 for a PSA 9. And why is this important? This is a far cry from the super highs that we saw at the end of last year when during the release of No Way Home, as well as the subsequent sale back in February. We're going to look at comparing all these 3 lots and to find out, is there any differences in all these cards, and try to make sense of what's going on, because obviously this price here is extremely low compared to the rest. But we want to examine whether is this a steal, is this a bargain, or is this an oversight, right? So we're going to talk about this card, that lot that ended first, right? Only 6 bits, compared to the other items here. You can see here 20 plus bits for the retro box, 2017 here, 25 bits, right? So but this has also come down quite a fair bit. If you guys can remember, there was a complete case of 6 boxes that go for about $300,000, right? So that's on average about $50,000 a box. So this is already half the price. But then again, this 2017 12 box case, $60,000, that's roughly about $5,000 a box. That's roughly the going market price. So still decent. Big dollar as a whole, 60,000, but $5,000 a box is pretty alright. But this has come down quite a fair bit. But zooming back to this one here, $18,000, let's have a look at what they previously sold on PWCC on December last year during the movie release. Here you can see here 18 December closed for $72,000 on PWCC auction. There was a lot of news about this particular card, right? So a lot of content as well. And the subsequent sale in February was this one during the high of the Marvel period, whereby it's $78,000. Now, not much difference between the one in December and the one in February, but a stark contrast to what we are at today. And let's examine on why is it $18,000. Is it a problem with the car? You can tell this, all of them are PSA 9, so these are all PSA 9s as well, right? So let's zoom in into the lot that just sold here, right? Just moments ago as well, and look at the card itself, right? With just 6 bits, which is pretty unusual for a card that's this massive, right? So taking a look at the card here, you can first of all look at the card and you can pay attention to this particular scratch line here. But Goldin has already come out and say that any scratch is actually on the case, and it doesn't really cost much to do any reholdering. So maybe it's just the hassle, or maybe just somebody just mistook this scratch for part of the card, but definitely it's not part of the card. It's something that can be fixed. Just pay a little bit of money and get it shipped back to a PSA to get the thing reholded, right? So no harm done on this particular scratch here. But looking at the card itself, pay attention to the front, whereby PSA pays a lot of attention to the eye appeal. You can see a little bit of nick in the corner here, a bit of nick in the corner here, a bit in the corner here, right? And when you compare to the one in PWCC, you can actually just see as well, a little bit of just tiny dots here is pretty acceptable, by PSA. Not much harm done. It's acceptable for these 2013 PMGs, who is actually notorious of having edging issues, as well as just tiny nicks and corners. And PSA has been a bit lenient with the PSA 9s that's given to these minor ones, especially when compared to sports cars, whereby they are extremely strict when it comes to these little dots here. These ones, one of these dots can easily drop the sports car down to a PSA 8. But for these PMGs, 2013 especially, there is a bit of leeway given here. So we can tell that the front is okay, but one thing I did notice is the centering. So if you look at the one in December here, just pay attention to the knee here, right? So there is a tiny gap here, just very small, but it's still nevertheless a little bit of gap here. And then when you look at the one that sold in February, again, there is just a tiny bit of a gap here, right? It's just a very little one. You gotta really zoom it in. But when you look at the one here and the Goldin one, it's literally touching the edges almost to the point whereby just a maybe scraping the edge here, I would say, a little bit, so centering is just a hair point off. If you are actually very particular about this, it does affect the eye appeal a little bit, so would it affect the grade? Maybe not, right? Again, it's pretty subjective on this grade. A PSA offers 70/30 on the front for a PSA 9, so this perhaps qualifies for that. But from an eye appeal perspective, you can tell there is a bit of a difference in there, but does it quantify to be a $50,000 difference? I'm not so sure about that, right? So let's go to the back and see on this particular one from Goldin. So it's card number out 84, and you can see that the back has a lot of things going for it, not in a positive way, right? So you can see a lot of edge lines here down to the corners, especially on the left hand side. This is not uncommon for any PMG, but definitely not something that you would expect to see on a card that's a PSA 9. So on first glance, without taking a look at other examples, right, you may think that, hey, this card is probably overgraded in a sense, but definitely when you want to look at compared to other PMGs, this is somewhat acceptable. But let's just compare to the other examples, right? So this one's again PMGCC from the one in December, and let's flip it around and look at this one here. So you can see that the edge on this one has a bit more wear. You can tell, see, a bit more seriousness in the wear over here. Okay, now when you go back to the, it's gonna look a bit better, right? So you would assume that this slightly look, yeah, maybe it's a bit longer streak, but it does look a bit better compared to the one in December. And then when you look at one in February, let's just flip this around and we zoom back in, and this is a cleaner example. Okay, much cleaner example when you look at the edges. Now I talked about the December card in one of my earlier videos, whereby it could have been coinciding with the movie release, and there was perhaps a huge Spider-Man fan who decided to fork out an extra cash to get particularly this one. It's PSA 9 at the end of the day, but of course there are some issues with that if you are actually particular of these kind of things. But today's video we're actually comparing back to the Goldin one, and in fact that this back example actually looks a lot better than the one in December, but maybe on the same kind of scale with the one that was sold in February. Okay, so coming back to this one, we have to come look at it whereby how has this dropped, right, in this case by almost, or in fact exactly $60,000, right, from $78,000 to $18,000. And we can say that we attribute that to Marvel cards being how we said, less in demand and things like that, but I wouldn't think so, right? And it's not this kind of heavy fall, especially for Spider-Man. So I have my couple of theories on this thing, right? So obviously I did feel that the prices in the time back in December and as well as February is kind of overinflated for PMGs in general, especially as such a hot character like Spider-Man. So, and when you look at this one, this auction for the green is still going, right? 2017 version, the third iteration of PMGs, even though this is a PSA 8, this is a green, which is number out of 10, which is more scarce, and it's going at $60,000 compared to this red one. And people can say all the positive things about this red, color matching, first PMG, PSA 9, lots of things going for it. But at the end of the day, this card is population out of 100. PSA 9 is a pop 6, but there are 100 examples of these, right? So for some people who can't really afford the real high-end PSA 9 range, there are other options to go downwards, PSA 8s, and maybe I've seen some BGS 8s as well. So, and going for reasonable price range, if you want the top cream, and therefore you gotta pay this big bucks here, but is it worth the $78,000? Would we expect to see something like decline by, let's say, 20 or to 50%, ending at $36,000 today? In fact, to be honest, I really didn't think so. So I wouldn't say that this is a bargain at $18,000. So I would think that this is still an expensive car. Maybe it could have gone a bit higher. Perhaps the timing, not so sure. Goldin had this being marketed for quite a fair bit of time. Just 6 bits is pretty unusual, but it tells you that where a lot of people are putting different emphasis on collecting, right? So big Spider-Man collectors maybe have their eye on something bigger, maybe have their eye on something better, or maybe they just already have this particular piece in the collection. But there's no fault on this card versus the one that's earlier in terms of the card quality. We've seen the scratch that we saw on the case, which is no big deal, right? So then again, so what do I think that this card, probably should have ended maybe slightly higher, right? Maybe 20, 22 perhaps, right? So, but again, upside for Marvel cards is there are a bunch of cards that you can literally buy. If you're thinking that you want to buy into this particular card and make 50%, naturally this is a very big investment, huge investment outlay, right? For $18,000, to try and make 50% gain, whereas you could buy a bunch of other cards and make similar percentages. So it's a bit more work, as what I always say, right? It just comes down to time and work. But if you're thinking purely from the financial perspective, there is a lot of other things that has similar or better potential than locking a huge sum of money into one huge PMG, even though it's a Spider-Man, such as this PSA 9. So this one, 5 more minutes to go, still sitting at $58,000. So we'll see whether or not this will close at this one, but definitely we all maybe the market maybe is going to take a bit of a surprise by the drop in this price from here, $72,000 and then $78,000 here, down to the one we are seeing here today, right? So hopefully you guys got something out of this one, and we'll catch you guys again soon with another card review. This is a bit shocker in this terms of the pricing. Hopefully everything works out well. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Do like, subscribe. Till the next one. Cowboys out.